Live from the Four Aces Studios, Four Aces Presents brings to you West Coast Bias.
The following Four Aces production is for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is highly advised.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to today's episode of West Coast Bias. I am here as usual with Mr. Suave and OMalley. Guys, what's up?
What's up?
All right, guys. So we're gonna dig right on in. Every once in a while or for the recent weeks, we've been opening with the Warriors every week. So for once, after a Dubs loss, unfortunately, which we'll get to later, and an amazing night at the UFC pay-per-view last night, we actually are going to open with something other than the Warriors this week. Last night, two huge, what can be considered huge upsets in the co-main events. Miesha Tate choked out Holly Holm to win the bantamweight title, and Nate Diaz choked out Conor McGregor to end his 15-fight winning streak. So, Suave, going ahead and kick us off, which do you think was the bigger upset?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think they're both on the same level, to be quite honest. I don't think you can say one. I mean, there was more talk around the McGregor fight than the Holly Holm fight. So I'm going to lean towards McGregor, but it was, I mean, pretty even on that tip. McGregor was talking a lot, and so was his opponent. And his opponent goes out there and gives him to submit. And then you got Holly Holm. She's fresh off of beating Ronda Rousey, and everybody's thinking she's the baddest new thing on the block. And if I'm not mistaken, Ronda Rousey's already beaten Tate a couple times. So, I mean, that's a tough one to call. It was a hell of a night for MMA.
Yeah, it was. OMalley, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to go with, I think the Tate upset was the bigger one, just because people need to remember that because nobody would fight McGregor at the last minute, except for basically Diaz and a handful of other people, it meant McGregor going up a weight class. So that can have an effect on a fighter. But the whole Tate thing, yeah, Tate has already been beaten by Ronda Rousey. Although I think that Holly Holmes really got exposed last night. Her weakness definitely came out, and that Rousey had to have been watching that like, yep, I got her next time. She has no ground game. She has no takedown defense. At the end of the day, she's a boxer, and take her to the ground and she doesn't know what to do.
All right, fair enough. I kind of saw it a little bit differently in the fact that Misha Tate has a little bit more experience in the ring as an actual MMA fighter. Once she was able to get on her back like the monkey, and Holm even admitted it herself in the post game, that biggest mistake, you never let somebody lock in on you on a rear naked choke. The minute you let them get that arm over that sorry, as soon as you let them get that hand over that forearm and they can lock and tighten, you're pretty much done. It doesn't matter who you are. And the minute Tate was able to lock that in, it was over at that point. Now, as far as the Rousey concept, I only see it a little bit differently in this concept. I get that you got Tate greater than Holm, but Holm kind of embarrassed Rousey, but then Rousey has embarrassed Misha Tate 3 separate times. So the advantage definitely goes to Rousey, who's Dana White's already said she's getting the next title shot against Tate. But I don't know. I just don't necessarily see it as exposed as in she just got beat by somebody who has a much better ground game. Ronda Rousey's problem with her fight against Holm was her own mentality more so than it was Holm's skill.
Yep.
Something was wrong with her when she stepped into that ring. So it wasn't necessarily that she got rocked, but it was just there was something wrong with Rousey when she went into that.
Well, and the fact that everybody kept talking to her about how she couldn't win it standing up. And I think that part of it is she went in there a little too cocky, showing them, I'll win it standing up, when she should have done what she normally does, is take it to the fucking ground and submit her. Period.
She definitely made an effort to do that, though. During the fight, she definitely made an effort to do that. Go on ahead. Sorry.
Here's the other thing with Tate, too, is I think that she made a big mistake. I mean, granted, Tate had already pretty well locked in on her. But if you look at the replay, when she went to go try to get her off her back, instead of slamming her down, she rolled into it like a somersault, which was dumb. She should have freaking slammed her ass to the ground, and that would have been the only slight possibility she would have had to get out of that. But instead, she rolled into it, and Tate just locked in more. So, it was that was definitely interesting. I had an interesting experience at the fights last night just because right as it was getting good with McGregor and Diaz, the power went out.
All
the power on La Riviera went out last night. So I'd have been pissed. You got a bar full of people. Yeah, it was a little chaotic. Yeah. And then of course somebody pulls up on their phone that Diaz just submitted McGregor, and I'm like, man, you just ruined it. It's like recording the game and somebody telling you who won before you got a chance to watch it. It's like, but so of course, you've got this bar full of people. There's no lights on. Someone's screaming that, Diaz won, so then everybody starts freaking chanting Stockton, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It was definitely an odd night, but I think that's a fight we'll see again. Yeah. But all it's done is made Diaz's head even bigger, which I wasn't sure was possible. And I know that people are like, well, they both talk shit. Well, they talk a different type of shit. Diaz is just a little wannabe thug that is just full of himself. And correct me if I'm wrong, is his brother not still on a lifetime ban from the UFC?
I believe so, yeah, for the marijuana incident.
Multiple, which is it's kind of bullshit. But it's interesting because technically, really, I mean, I've always thought of Nick as the better fighter of the two. Yeah. Honestly.
To be honest with you, I thought Nick was Nick. So. Sorry. When they first said he took the fight, I was like, oh, look, it's that dude that faced Anderson Silva. And then I was like, oh, no, that was Nick. When they started talking about the brother, I was like, oh, okay, never mind, different guy.
Well, and I remember when they had when Nate won the Ultimate Fighter. When I first started watching it, because I wasn't in the state at the time, so when I first started watching it, I was kind of pulling for him. But then, more and more, his attitude came out. And I think it's so funny because it's all about this, and in the weigh-ins, he made his comment about Stockton. They don't even spend much time in Stockton anymore. So, I just find that funny. But, yeah, it was also the fine irony. You're in an Irish bar watching an Irish fighter with everybody chanting USA. That was strange.
Yeah, I can believe that.
I'm
I can definitely
y'all
believe that.
do y'all not realize I know we're in USA, but do you not realize you're in an Irish bar watching an Irish fighter?
Yeah.
It was just, it was ironic.
Well, I'll say, go on.
It was definitely an interesting night.
I can only imagine. Well, say I actually ended up watching the fight at home. Not gonna say how, because I don't want to get in any trouble. But I watched the fight from home, and I'll be honest with you. I've been getting into. I have a lot of respect for McGregor. I actually predicted him to win this fight on our most recent episode of Double K's Classroom. So he was definitely the one I wanted to win as far as wanting to be right. But I can't help but say it. I get it. Love the dude. He's a skilled fighter. Take nothing away from him. But the way he's been running his mouth, I've never been so glad to be wrong. And the fashion under which Diaz did it, and in which it was just one of those moments. I don't know if the power was out during that portion of the fight for you, Heather, but there's a part in the fight, I believe it was early second round, because McGregor pretty much dominated Diaz that first round. It was close, but Diaz took a lot of hits, and McGregor really dominated him. But in the second round, there was a moment where Diaz hits him with a left. And it kind of rocks McGregor just a little bit. The way I described it, I compare it kind of like to when Ali was first hit by Joe Frazier. And it was that wake up moment of, oh shit, huh? And from that moment forward, Diaz just kind of owned the fight until he got the tap out. He just kind of owned the fight. And I'm not gonna lie, I was up out my seat because recently it's been this rash, and the Miesha Tate fight shows it. The Ronda Rousey fight shows it. The Luke Rockhold when he beat Chris Weidman. When Chris Weidman beat Anderson Silva. We've seen so many of these top fighters, best evers, end up coming to the screeching halt. And I'm not saying anything negative about them. They're still best evers. But it's been to seem like that's been more of the trend recently, is that the more you talk, the more likely it's going to be that somebody's going to end you in spectacular fashion. The only exception to that rule is Holly Holm, because she didn't really run her mouth about Miesha Tate going up to the fight. Those two weren't really yakety at each other. They just kind of got in the ring and did it, and that was one hell of a fight. If I have to say it, of the ones I've seen so far this year, that's easily number one, number two up there. Those two girls went at it. But the Diaz fight, it was just, even like I said, even wanting McGregor to lose, still predicted he would win. Thought he would that's just who he is. And Diaz just proved me wrong. That boy went out there and did some things. Suave, you got any thoughts on that Diaz-McGregor fight?
McGregor didn't finish him off when he had a couple opportunities. I mean, if you look at how each person looked at the end of the fight, without seeing the fight, you would have said, oh, man, Diaz got his ass kicked. I mean, McGregor beat him up pretty damn good. It just came down to leaving an opening for Diaz and not finishing him off, and Diaz was able to do, like any good boxer, you get a crack and you take that opening and you're able to take a victory. So I think McGregor will learn from this defeat. But, I mean, if you hadn't watched the fight and you just saw the clips until they raised Diaz's hands up, you would have swore Diaz lost that fight. So, I mean, McGregor did his thing, but he just left the opening for Diaz. Diaz took advantage, which is what up-and-coming guys do. And, McGregor will learn from the loss. I mean, when McGregor was walking out and doing his interviews and he was all in a snappy suit, you still would have thought McGregor won, just by the the lightness of the abuse he took. He just ended up getting choked out. So it's a tough loss for McGregor. I'm sure he'll learn from it. He won't change any of his style or his panache that he's been working on since being champ. So I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing a rematch here, and I'll be very surprised if McGregor loses 2 times in a row to the same fighter.
Very true. Very true. Now, we're going to kind of touch on the hot subject when it comes to McGregor as of recently. And I know that some of us don't particularly like this person as a human being, including myself. I personally think he's a worthless piece of shit. But I do give the man the props that he deserves for being the fighter that he is in the ring. But this is the second MMA fighter now that has talked mess about thinking that they could step into a street fight or a boxing ring with that man and proceeded to their very next fight either get tapped out or knocked out. So maybe, just maybe, MMA fighters need to stop looking to try to challenge this man, because there seems to be some kind of curse that says that if you run your mouth about him, you eventually, you effectively are going to lose your next fight. At least that's the way it seems right now. But at the end of the day, the question that we ask is the same question that's being asked all over ESPN, Bleacher Report, friggin' Sports Illustrated, you name it, they didn't ask it. Could he beat Floyd in a boxing match, which is basically what he's been saying he can do? Suave, take us away to start. O'Malley, going ahead and follow him.
Well, I mean, I don't know. In a straight-on boxing match, I got to give the edge to Floyd Mayweather. I hate to say it, McGregor's good, and he's a champion. But if you're talking a straight match where McGregor can't kick him, can't put him in a chokehold, can't slam him around an octagon, well then, yeah, I'm going to give the nod to Mayweather, because Mayweather is going to do what Mayweather really started to do towards the later half of his career to preserve his undefeated streak, which worked for him. And that's, dance around the ring, outpoint his opponent, and not really getting into any brawls or anything, do a lot of running. So, that defensive style that he employed, I think would keep McGregor at bay. And, Floyd would outpoint him. But if Floyd were to get in the ring of an MMA match, an octagon, well, then I'm going to give the nod to McGregor. Because at some point, Floyd can only run so far in the octagon versus the boxing ring. And it's pretty much no holds barred versus you can only use your hands in the ring. So in a straight boxing match, though, I'm going to give it to Mayweather, even though it would please me greatly to watch. I'd like to see what a guy like McGregor could do in a boxing ring, and I hate to have to say it. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Mayweather in that one. And I do think you're right. I think it's time for people to leave Mayweather alone. He's retired. He's not going to fight anymore. His career is etched in stone. And there does seem to be some type of, you never really know who starts it. It's not really necessarily the fighters. Sometimes it's the media, and then the fighters, chime in on it. Like it was with Rousey and Mayweather, they both started chiming in because the media kind of got them on that role. And then they did the same thing with McGregor and Mayweather. So as long as nobody takes the bait, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be the thing for MMA guys, if somebody's going to say something about Mayweather or something that Mayweather said, and the MMA guy or gal is going to have to, expunge on something and say something in some shape, way, or form. So I guess it's time for them to refrain from that, because if the next person goes out and does it and gets into like a little verbal sparring match, with Mayweather and loses, well, then it's going to be like the who was that guy that had the curse in the playoffs for the NBA last year? It's going to be like that rapper. So I hate to see that happen.
All right, O'Malley.
I agree. I think if it's in a boxing ring, unfortunately it kills me to say this. I would have to say Mayweather. But if it's stepping into an octagon, I definitely think that it's McGregor, because I think McGregor would just charge him, give him everything he's got, and then Mayweather just doesn't have the defense for that. He has the defense of dancing around the ring, kind of keeping away from his opponent, which is really annoying. I think if anybody actually, out of all of these fighters, if anyone had the chance of actually beating him just toe-to-toe in a boxing match, that would probably have to go to Holly Holm. She is the boxer. So, she understands those tactics. But as far as, if it were to be a no-holds-barred stepping into the octagon, I'd have to go with McGregor on that. But a toe-to-toe boxing match, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say Mayweather, and with as much as that really kills me. Because, yeah. But
I know that hurts inside to say that.
It really does. It kills me. It's a special kind of pain. But but I have to give a toe-to-toe boxing match to Mayweather, and I hate you for making me say that.
Well, no, okay. Hey, we talk about the Raiders constantly, don't we? I'm like, so I know your pain, all right? Anyway, no. But at the end of the day, no, I can't agree that I take Mayweather in a boxing match. But the reason why, and I'll kind of explain to our audience, the reason why I chose boxing match, and I said boxing match, and a lot of people are saying boxing match over MMA fight or no holds barred fight, is because of this. When you're the best at what you do, which Conor McGregor is easily right now one of the top 2 fighters in the MMA, easily, even with the loss last night, easy. If you want to prove to the world that you're I can do it, I can whip his ass, I'm just a pure better fighter than him, then you step into his world and beat him. You don't ask him to step into yours, because of course you're going to beat him in your world. He knows nothing about your world. The sports are similar, but they are not alike. Do you see what I'm saying? And so because of that, I say if McGregor's going to challenge Floyd to a fight, let it be a boxing match. Because then if McGregor goes in there and knocks out Floyd, then guess what? His point's proven. He's just a better fighter than Floyd Mayweather. But and so it's one of those type of things where, to me, if you're going to talk mess or challenge somebody, you should offer to step into their ring. Don't offer to bring them into your arena, because obviously you have the advantage in your own arena. A true warrior doesn't need an advantage. He can beat whoever the opponent is. Conor McGregor is a true warrior. So if this is to happen, Conor, step your ass into a boxing ring and do what you say you think you could do, and do something that 49 men have tried and 49 men have failed, and that's beat Floyd Mayweather. All right, so all of that said, UFC 196, I give it an A+ as far as pay-per-view quality. Like I said, I really only watched the 2 co-main events. I heard the rest of the card was pretty good as well.
But you ain't paid for it.
Shut up.
Oh, boy, I can't do this.
Well, I'm pretty sure for those that did pay for it, it was worth the money, all right? Look, man, shoot.
Yeah,
right?
the one time I don't stay home and buy the fight, what happens? The freaking power goes out.
Well, it was Hurricane Katrina outside all night on Saturday, so.
Yeah, that ain't no lie, because when we looked out, because first, the satellite went down, and people are like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden the power went out. It flickered for a second and then just completely just went out. And everybody started getting pissed. And then you look to the door and you can see that you can't even see outside because the rain was coming down that insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Crazy. So, guys, enjoy this one day without rain, because I've heard that there's more coming, and there'll be more coming even before the end of this day. So, needless to say, though, but overall, great UFC. One other thing, forgot what. Well, lost it. So let's go on ahead and start by talking a little bit about the post-fight reactions, because it's something that you very rarely ever see, especially in a situation where people run their mouths at each other. There's normally a lot of hurt feelings and butthurtness, and I'll give Conor McGregor credit to lose the way he did, to be as prideful of a man as he was, but yet still shake Nate Diaz's hand, give him that respect, and not really demean him in any way, even in his post-fight interview, is another thing that causes me to gain a lot of respect for Conor McGregor. Guys, your thoughts on those post-fight interviews?
I've had mad respect for McGregor, and even with with his flamboyant as he is, with as much as he talks, he still has a sportsman quality about him. And that's why I can take some of the loudmouthness, because at the end of the day, he still has respect and sportsmanship. He really does. And I think he proved that last night with how he acted afterwards. He was a true class act afterwards. To be honest, I can't say that Nate Diaz would have acted the same way afterwards. I really can't. I don't see it happening. But that aside, I mean, it just made me gain that much more respect for him, because he really did act like a true class act. He could have been a total asshole about it, and he was a true class act. So, I mean, I think people saw another side of McGregor last night that obviously they're not used to seeing, because, I mean, you're not used to seeing him lose. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that he just showed one more facet of himself last night. And, I mean, I have mad respect for him anyways, because, with his flamboyant and all of that, he has really given back to the community which he's from in Ireland. He's taken a real stand on doing that, which I also admire. He hasn't let his celebrity and his money and all of that kind of go to waste and go to his head and forget where he came from. He's actually gone back and done a lot of good there. So, I mean, I have mad respect for the man, and not just because he's Irish, but just last night showed one more facet of his personality that I think that people didn't necessarily know was there, because, I mean, up until now, that's not a side that he's really been on.
Very true. Suave?
It's going to be interesting to see how he rebounds. The post-fight interviews, I mean, he didn't necessarily look defeated. He was walking out dressed all snappy, so I expect McGregor to be back. Didn't really get a chance to see Diaz for a little while. He was getting a lot of facial work done to seal up a lot of cuts and things and gashes that he had gotten. But I expect him to come out and toot his own horn for a bit. So I'm ready for the rematch.
All right. And last thoughts, folks, on the upcoming UFC pay-per-view 197 that is going to be headlined by the rematch between Daniel Cormier and John Bones Jones for the light heavyweight title. Only this time, John Bones Jones will be the challenger and Cormier will be the champ. O'Malley, kick us off with your thoughts on that main event for the upcoming UFC pay-per-view.
Okay, well, John, let me just speak to John for a second, okay? If you're going to run, don't go back to your vehicle. Let's try to behave now. You got yourself back in. Let's not go back for your stash once you've left it and the cops have it. I'm interested to see that fight. I kind of think that there's a little bit of comedy around it just because of some of the stuff that happened with John Bones Jones afterwards.
Yeah.
But I mean, kind of reminiscent of when Rampage literally went on a rampage on the freeway in a chase. If you're gonna be in a chase from the cops, try not to do it in a vehicle that has your face on the side of it. I'm interested in seeing it, and honestly, they made a big deal last night. They've got a lot of stuff coming up in leading up to their 200th fight that will be coming up. As far as the rematch between Cormier and John Bones Jones, I'm interested in seeing it, but I think that last night's fights were probably what I have been most interested in for the near future. Because of everything that surrounded them. It's going to take, I think, a lot to top last night's fights just because of everything that happened. And I think that people who actually paid for the fights last night got their money's worth because it was amazing. But I'm just not as excited about it as I could be about some other fights coming up.
Gotcha.
Because I'm kind of just on it now, with everything that happened, John Bones Jones kind of lost his persona a little bit. You really haven't heard a whole bunch about that situation between the two of them because, he was on a ban for a while. So it should be, I'm not saying it won't be a good fight, and it should be interesting. It's just, I'm looking towards the future and some of the fights that I can already see are going to be made and some rematches that are going to be done and some other, there's a little bit that I'm going to touch on in my opinion piece. So, of course I'm going to watch the fight. I've always watched the fight. But it's not one that I'm doing backflips over.
Yeah.
We'll just say that.
Fair enough. And Suave, your thoughts?
The heck are we talking about? I'm dealing with all these Laker fans while I'm doing the show. These Laker fans got me all my feelings.
It's we're talking about the Bone Jones.
They're coming out of the woodwork right now.
Yeah, they are.
And somebody turned on the light and the butchers are scattering. I tell you.
Seriously, to the Lakers fans right now, it's like when we lost the streak. It's like Lakers fans right now feel like they just won the championship because that's as close as they're gonna fucking get for a while. So they're coming out of the woodwork right now.
They're planning the parade right now.
And Suave, that's exactly why you got to let them have it. Let them have it. Let them have their moment. Let them talk their shit. No, do you want to know why? Because that team is not sniffing a fucking championship for the next half decade at least. So let them have their one little moment of joy. Because where the Dubs will be relevant and championship worthy for the next 5 years, you see that slime on the ground? That will be Lakers.
Hold on. I've literally got Laker fans saying that because of this win, the Lakers are going to start climbing up the Western Conference fucking picture, even though they're 44.5 games out of first place. And I'm just like,
hey,
for real,
tell
Laker
them whatever
fans,
they're smoking,
for real.
share it with me, because that's some good shit. If it got
See,
you
and
thinking
then
that,
I got other Laker fans.
No shit. Dude, let me know where you're getting your shit from, because, man, it must be freaking out there.
If you honest,
For real, the blue and gold crack.
Oh man, it's
Oh my God, son definitely is in the water down in L.A.
I'm surprised they didn't give Byron Scott a Gatorade bath.
Like I said, just go ahead and have your fun, Lakers fans, because your team is going to be garbage for the next few years. D'Angelo Russell looks promising, but trust me, we crushed you 3 other times this year. I could see if this was the first meeting between the Lakers and the Dubs this season, and we lost like this. This is the 4th meeting. We're pretty much tired of playing y'all at this point.
This was a pity. This was just a pity win.
And for God's sakes, Warriors fans never acted like this when we beat the Lakers when they were a championship team. We were like, we beat y'all.
Oh my.
But it wasn't like we were throwing parades and ticker tapes and everything else like these motherfuckers are out here doing. Yeah, anyway. This from the same fan base that had a dude on national TV wear a Lakers jersey until halftime and then take it off and have a Curry jersey underneath. Yeah. That says everything you need to know about the Laker fan base right now. All right,
it's the biggest upset in NBA history because the Lakers are under 200% and the Warriors are at 90-something%, and they're saying it's the biggest upset in NBA history. And I'm just like,
okay, I can understand.
Oh my
record-wise,
God, I gotta hear this until the next game.
Record-wise, it probably is. Well, Steve, you only got to hear it till tomorrow night when the Warriors break the home record streak tomorrow night by beating Orlando. Then the talk's all about that. Then nobody cares about the Lakers anymore.
I almost feel bad for Orlando tomorrow because they're going to get demolished. Mm-hmm. They're going to be sent home crying to mama because, we were talking about this a little bit off air about the fact that the Warriors always come back even stronger after a win or, a loss. Yeah. So, I almost feel bad for Orlando. Almost.
All right, guys. So let's take that first commercial break. We'll come back, hit up those opinion pieces, and then we'll get to talking more sports, of course, right after the second commercial break. You're listening to West Coast Bias. Shush. You're listening to West Coast Bias right here on the 4 Aces Network, Spreaker.com.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Cole from Planet of Cole and the Raw Impact Unleashed for 4 Aces Presents. Now, I'm going to do a little rundown for the weekly shows we got coming up. Monday, we got Now vs. Then from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. All of these are Pacific Standard Time. Tuesday, iRock Radio from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Also Tuesday, The Sidebar, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Wednesday, Hip Talk Radio from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Also on Wednesday, we got Now vs. Then West from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Getting a little late for y'all peeps on the East Coast. Now Thursday, we got the Raw Impact Unleashed with yours truly and Kevin Kendrick, Double K. That's from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So y'all check out our weekly shows and holla at your boy. Take it easy.
Well, I was hoping to talk about a Warriors victory and how they're still outpacing the Bulls, but since we just tied them, I'll just say that, the Bulls also lost their 61st game of the season, so we're right there. I'm not really worried about it. So I'm going to talk about bigger and better things and go ahead and talk about the Oakland Raiders. Well, free agency is almost here. The Warriors have a couple of holes to fill. Apparently they offered Donald Penn a 2-year, $19 million deal, and he declined it. The guy doesn't understand that he's 32 years old, on his way to being 33 throughout the season, and that the Raiders don't want to pay him in the long term. Surprised he didn't take the deal. I think it kind of changes their strategy. There are a couple of good free agent offensive linemen out there, and even though the Raiders' offensive line played as a top 5 unit last year statistically, they definitely can't afford to not at least upgrade or find someone just as serviceable as Penn. So I still think they go with McKenzie, the cornerback, with the first pick in the draft at pick 14. But if one of the stalwart linemen are there, there is an opportunity for them to maybe go that direction and address cornerback in free agency. I'm not 100% sold on that idea. I'd rather do that reversed. I'd rather get the cornerback if he's available and then attack the offensive line in free agency. I do believe that the Chiefs are getting ready to lose another lineman, and we stole their top center last year, and I wouldn't mind adding the guard that looks like he's going to be leaving. I hope that they make a play for Eric Weddle to replace Charles Woodson. He's always played hard. He's definitely still a top-flight safety. Definitely brings an attitude that I would love to have on the Raiders. Not a ton of free agents that I want the team to go for. They Jets signed Wilkerson to the franchise tag, but the other guy on the defensive line, they put the transition tag on, which means that if any team out there with cap room signs him to a front-loaded deal, the Jets won't be able to match, which is what I think the Raiders should do, especially considering that if you front-load any contracts for free agents from here on out, you leave yourself with plenty of cap room in the future when you're going to have to give a Von Miller or Joe Flacco style contract to David Carr and Mac. So,
Derek.
I mean, yeah, Derek. I thought about it in my head, and I was like, damn it. But I'm just going to call it Carr from now on so you can't get them confused. All these lineages getting into sports, all these brothers and stuff like that, it's not good for the sport because you always forget who the hell you're talking about, if it's the older or the younger or whatnot. But I think the Raiders have a couple of holes. You've got to get at least one good offensive lineman off the free agent pile. You've got to get another cornerback to kind of add some depth to it, to allow the young guys to really kind of step up and grow without being necessarily in the spotlight. I think they have to hit on, Reggie's had a couple of good drafts consistently or concurrently, and I think he needs to add to that. 3 good drafts in a row would definitely put us in position to become a playoff team, especially considering Peyton Manning is, according to reports, going to announce his retirement on Monday, which really puts, that division incredibly up for grabs. A lot of Bronco fans will say, hey, we're fresh off the title. We got Brock Osweiler. And, yeah, you got Brock Osweiler if you re-sign him to a deal. But outside of that defense, I don't see Brock Osweiler taking that next step next year. It might take him a year or two to actually develop into a top-flight quarterback. And during that time, you might not be able to maintain that top-level defense. So the Chargers, they've got a lot of holes. I still believe in Phillip Rivers that he's an elite quarterback, but I believe that the team around him has deteriorated from what it was. Kansas City, I think they're right there. I think they're the biggest threat to the Raiders, especially with what they did last year. They started the season, I believe, 0-5 or 1-5 or something like that, and then ended up reeling off like 9 straight victories to push themselves into the playoff picture. So I really think that the division is up for grabs. Raiders have a strong opportunity. A couple of players I want them to go out there and get, but in the end of this segment, just going to say, go Raiders, and I will not be attending the Laker parade next year on March 6th.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Cole from the Raw Impact Unleashed and Planet of Cole. just throwing out there the lineup for the weekend for Four Aces Presents here on Spreaker.com. Fridays, we got Raporia Presents, or Raporia Presents, 2 p.m., 4 p.m. Pacific. All these are Pacific Standard Times. Now versus then Deuce from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. That is going to be a monthly show. We also have Revolving Door Fridays with K Double's classroom, or Double K's classroom, also splitting it up with Planet of Coal. Those shows are from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday, we got WTF from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And also on Saturday, we have the Troll Gazer Gaming Project featuring James Brower from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And on Sunday, we cap off the week with West Coast Bias from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And remember, all these are Pacific Standard Time. So check all these shows out and holla at your boy. Y'all take it easy.
All right, well, I'm going to go back to MMA a little bit and touch back on this whole Holm, Tate, Rousey, triangle that we got going on now. We touched on this not too long after Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey, and it came out that Rousey was sidelined for, I think, like 6 months because of the head trauma. And the UFC basically wasn't going to let her fight again until she could fight Rousey. And, which was wrong to her, because it's not fair to keep a fighter from fighting for that long when it's, not medically necessary. But I think exactly what they were afraid of happening is what happened last night, is they were afraid that she would get beat. And then what do you do? Because they'd had this whole, rematch plan. But in the end, I think they actually won from it because they got an extra fight, an extra add to the drama, because now it's going to be Rousey versus Tate, and Rousey's going to beat her for the fourth time, and then it'll go back to the rematch between, and it will be a true rematch because it will be the exact same fight that it was to begin with, because Rousey will have the belt back, and then it will be Holm trying to take the title. So, I think that what they originally did not want to happen happened last night, but I think in the end the UFC actually won because of it, because they get an extra relevant fight out of the whole thing. Now it's kind of a whole triangle we've got going on between the three of them, and honestly I think Tate is kind of just, I hate to say it, but insignificant. I think what she did was she showed the definite weaknesses last night in Holly Holm's fighting game. The first time that she had her on the ground, after that, Holly was never the same. You could tell that it had shook her. I think that it was a harsh dose of reality. I think it was in that moment she realized how ill-equipped she was for the ground game. So, they originally didn't want Holm to fight until she was able to fight Rousey again. But now, of course, it's this whole new little saga. So it'll be Rousey gets the next fight. It'll be coming up quick to the point where she'll be allowed to fight again. She'll get the next fight. She'll go in there. She'll handle her business against Tate. I think Rousey was humbled a little bit. I think that, she learned some lessons. I know that she definitely learned some lessons watching that fight last night. So in the UFC one, we're going to see an extra fight out of it. You're going to keep the women's division relevant a little bit, even more, a little bit longer because of it, because it was getting to the point of, Rousey was handling everybody they put in there with her. So now this kind of like gives some more relevancy and some more drama to and a light being shown on the women. So I'm excited for when that time comes. I love watching Rousey fight. I think she was humbled a little bit. I think she's learned some lessons. So I'm excited to see her get out there and fight again. Other than that, that's just really my opinion.
All right, guys, Double K back here again. Just to remind you that we do have a full lineup pretty much again this week. We should be getting a Dirty Talk 101 sometime this week, as well as an MVT Deuce. And, of course, you'll get Raw Impact Unleashed on Thursday. Planet of Coal on Friday for this week's Revolving Door Fridays, and the Trollgazer Gaming Project, the new hottest show on the Four Aces Network, starring Randy and James. I'm telling you, those guys are funny, so be sure to listen in on Saturday. And then, of course, next Sunday, right back here with you again will be me, myself, Mr. Suave and OMalley on West Coast Bias. So, Four Aces, we're bringing it to you. We got more shows coming up this month that are going to debut, so keep listening in, guys. Things are getting hot around here. All right. So, next thing we're going to talk about, college basketball coming to a close. Pac-12 is looking pretty solid as far as having representatives. You got Oregon, who's a top 10 team. They're a lock to make the tournament. You've got Utah, who I believe is a top 15 team. They're a lock to make the tournament. Cal's in there in the top 25. They're pretty much a lock to make the tournament. Same thing with the Arizona Wildcats. So, guys, they have three teams, and we'll start here and kind of work our way towards those locks. They have three teams here listed on ESPN Bracketology: Colorado, Oregon State, USC. Colorado sitting at 21-9, 10-7 in conference. Oregon State 17-11, 8-9 in conference. Has the third strength of schedule in the country. That's kind of their niche there. And then USC is 20-10, 9-8 in conference. 46th strength of schedule in the country, and Colorado has the 52nd. Which one of those three teams do you think is likely to actually make it in? Suave, go ahead and kick us off.
Oregon State needs to win its last couple of games. I'd like the strength of schedule. I think that may play big into it, but it's going to be tough to discount a team that still won 20 games in Colorado. So I'm going to have to give them up to Colorado. If Oregon State had pulled off a couple more victories, I think they'd be in it.
All right, OMalley.
Well, I'm going to strike USC just because I can't pick them for anything. It just goes against my nature. It'd be like picking Stanford for something which just goes against my nature. Go Cal. And I'm going to have to agree with Suave on this one. I think as it stands right now, probably Colorado, but, I mean, I don't think you can count out Oregon State until, I think they're going to try to scrap until the end because they know that there's a possibility, and I think it's one of the things that I've always loved about college ball is that they go out there really, and I mean, granted, it gets even better as you reach March Madness and the tournament and everything, but they go out there and they put 110% into every game. Mm-hmm. They play every game like the NBA plays during the playoff. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons I've always enjoyed watching college ball. I've thought that up until recent years, as some of the way that the NBA and the way the basketball is kind of changing how it and the Warriors changing how the game is really played and looked at. In some ways, I actually liked, other than, watching my team, I liked watching college ball better just because they're all out there still trying to make it, They're still trying to do something. So, but I think NBA is taking a turn, and I love watching them, but again, I'm going to have to agree with Suave. But I honestly, even with what I said about USC, I wouldn't count any of those three teams out until, like the very end. They're going to try to ride the shit till the wheels fall off.
For sure. Now, guys, we're going to now start digging into those four locks and their potential actually in the tournament. We start with Arizona. They have pretty much finished their schedule. Only thing left to play now is the Pac-12 tournament, which I believe begins on either Monday or Tuesday this week, because I believe this upcoming Sunday is Selection Sunday, where they decide who's going where and all that good stuff there. But Wildcats finished off their season with a win over Stanford, 94-62. I believe they earned, because they're top 4 seed and the way they play out, they earned a bye in the first round. But your thoughts on Arizona and what their chances are to make it pretty much about the Sweet 16. We'll kind of go with that for right now. Suave, your thoughts? Suave? Do we still have you, Suave?
Sorry about that connection issue. I think they can get to the Sweet 16. They're taking a couple lumps throughout the season, but I still think they're a strong team. I'm not going to say they're a lock for the Sweet 16. It's going to be really depend on if they end up in a bracket of death, so-called bracket of death. So the field is going to be strong this year for the entire 64 teams that get in it, or 68, but the real 64 after the play-ins. So it's going to be real curious to see who goes where, because there's a lot of pundits who really feel that there are 20 teams or so this season that could really have a chance of winning it all. It's not really a lock between just 5 to 10 teams. They actually say 15 to 20, if not 25 teams, have a legitimate shot. And if certain brackets set you up, a lot of teams could make it. So I think Arizona definitely has a shot to get to at least to the Sweet 16.
All right, O'Malley?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, a lot of it is going to depend on where they fall and what bracket they fall into. I think that's kind of the luck of the draw for a lot of teams, and that could probably be said for any of the top teams out there. And in this season, definitely there's been, it's not like there's just been one team that is a complete standout. There's actually, a handful of teams that have been absolutely amazing throughout the season. And there's also been some pretty awesome upsets throughout the season, too. As far as Arizona goes, especially out of the Pac-12, I mean, Arizona is known for basketball. It's always amazing when, their football team comes out and has an awesome season, because they are a basketball school. They have the experience of being there. Now, granted, obviously it's not the same team always that has the experience of being there, but as a whole, when your school that's where the experience comes from, and, that's what you're known for, and that's what you play for. It's a little bit different of a vibe. So I definitely would or could see them at least getting up into the Sweet 16 for sure. And I mean, for them, it's not a stretch to say that at all.
No, not at all. Now, guys, Next team we're taking a look at is the Oregon Ducks. They've played pretty much well all season long, clinched themselves a Pac-12 regular season title with their win over USC. They're currently on a 5-game winning streak. So let's take a look at their record currently stands at 25-6, 14-4 in the Pac-12. Let's look at their chances to reach the Sweet 16. O'Malley, going ahead and kick us off with your thoughts.
I don't think they're as likely to reach the Sweet 16. It just, and part of that just goes on a gut feeling that I have. It's not really anything against the team. I think this is also, again, where experience comes in. They're playing amazing. If they can keep playing the way that they are, and if they fall into, just the right spot, then it's a possibility. But I don't really. They're not a team that I can really see in the Sweet 16.
Fair enough, Suave.
What team?
Leave them Lakers fans alone. We're talking about Oregon now.
I turned in too late now. What team was that?
Oregon Ducks, brother. Oregon Ducks.
Oh. They got a decent shot to get to we're talking about the Sweet 16, right?
Right.
Okay, because I don't think they're going to make it, to the Final Four or nothing like that. But the Ducks have had a kind of a renaissance this season. They really kind of upped their level of play. I definitely like some of the players. But, you get to the Sweet 16, you've got to win, 2 or 3 games in a row, all depending.
Yeah,
so I think could I see them winning 2 games? Yeah. But it's going to be just like for every team, including the real good ones. It's going to come down to who all's in your bracket and how tough that bracket is as a whole. I think that it's going to be tough to say that. I mean, I believe Oregon has the ability to get to the Sweet 16, but I reserve to hold judgment until I actually get to see how the brackets do the Pac-12 teams. I mean, as a whole, it's going to be real tough if they end up with all the good teams in their bracket, when they could have gotten the easy way, or including not just that, it could end up with ranking. If the Ducks end up as a 12 seed or a 5 seed or so, typically one of the seeds that ends up, catching an upset in the first round because they face a tough team that just got kind of ranked kind of low, that could derail the whole thing. So I think they could, if just like with every team, if the bracket sets up pretty decent, then yeah, they could make it. But there's also a chance they get bounced out in the first game if the selection committee kind of screws them over.
All right. Now, we'll take a look now at the Utah Utes, a team that has thrived since switching over to the Pac-12. This season, they completed the season 24-7, a game 13-5 in conference, a game behind Oregon. They're on a 7-game winning streak currently with wins over Washington, Wazoo, UCLA, USC, Arizona State, Arizona, and Colorado on their way into the Pac-12 tournament. This seems to be one of the hottest teams out of all the teams that we've talked about, except for the team that we're going to talk about next. So, Suave, your thoughts on whether or not Utah, like I said, if they're any more or any less likely to make the Sweet 16?
What team are you talking about? I was kidding.
Oh, boy.
Utah Utes have had an excellent year. I think that, they're another team that are kind of having a renaissance. You remember the Rick Majerus Utes. Hell, you remember the Andrew Bogut Utes, the Rick Van Horn Utes, So they're kind of having a renaissance as well. So I think that they can have a good showing. And I hate repeating this like a broken record, but it definitely comes down to seeding and who all's in your bracket. I think that any of the Pac-12 teams that get into the tournament, if they're in a favorable bracket, can actually have a deep run. But it's going to come down to who they face and when. That's really going to kind of decide it. So I'm really hoping that the committee doesn't lump any of those teams in truly tough conditions. I hope they all get ranked appropriately. But there's a chance that a team like Oregon or Utah could end up being ranked low and become the upset team. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Well, before O'Malley chimes in, I will say this. So far, bracketology, ESPN has, unfortunately, the Pac-12 getting screwed as two teams. I believe it was Utah and Arizona and California are in brackets by themselves with decent teams, but not any other Pac-12 teams. And then all of the other four teams that are projected to make the tournament all land in the same bracket. So most likely we'll have to go through each other in order to reach any type of significant run in the Pac-12 tournament, or not Pac-12, but NCAA tournament. O'Malley, your thoughts on that they're Utah's chances of reaching the Sweet 16?
Well, again, we're Suave, in the bracket. And to touch a little bit based on what you just said, though, whereas it leaves the Pac-12 less likely to have more, teams going forward, as it progresses. For those first few games, playing against teams that they have experience playing against, will give, the higher teams in the Pac-12 a little bit more of a chance to get just that much further because they've had the experience in playing those teams, unlike, maybe going up against a real big-name team that they haven't really played, that they don't have experience playing, that maybe the only experience they have about is hearing them or watching them on TV. So that could actually lead to a Pac-12 team going farther. What happens is it leads to less Pac-Team 12s going farther, unfortunately. But as far as Utah, luck of the draw at this point, I definitely do see the Pac-12 getting screwed. The Pac-12, I think a lot of people don't necessarily look at for basketball when they should if they look at the rankings of our teams right now. But, I mean, the Pac-12 is notorious. It's, football, ACC is basketball, it's stuff like that. And I think that, unfortunately, that does play into how we end up getting screwed. But, I mean, it really is just going to come. Do they have the ability? Absolutely. They have the ability. But it is going to come down to, the bracket. That's what it's going to be for all of the teams. It's going to come down to the bracket. Except for some of those teams that are just like, consistently up there. Some of those teams, you can put them in whatever bracket and, they manage to pull through. But every year, there's always, like, this team that comes out of nowhere and fucks up everybody's bracket. And, like, people are done, like, the first game because this little no-name school or this little David team just freaking beat Goliath. So, that's one of the things that's always interesting about, when it comes down to this time is the upset. Well, not really when it fucks up my bracket, but I still love the upset.
Yeah. By far. Now, the final team that we will be discussing is the team that's closest to home for all of us. Big fan myself. Ccalifornia Golden Bears. They finished this season 22-9, 12-6 in the Pac-12. Two games out of first place behind Oregon. They ended their season winning 8 of their last 9 games. Their only loss came in a 3-point loss at Arizona. towards the end of the season. This team is a team that by Dickie V early in the season was projected to potentially make the Final Four and maybe even the championship game. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, but guys, why don't you guys go ahead and kick off your thoughts on whether or not you think this Cal Bears team can actually reach the Final Four or potentially the championship game. O'Malley, your thoughts?
Cal's going to win the NBA championship. Wait, what? No. I mean, this is where our name definitely comes into play, because I have a very strong bias when it comes to Cal. And, realistic or not, my ass is going to be wishing that, and hoping and praying and, that they go all the way. I think right now that they're actually ranked 25th in the country. But it doesn't matter because they're always number one in my heart. For me, I mean, it's all Cal, everything. Well, Cal and Oklahoma, but that's a long story. But, I think that I'm going to say that they got the ability to go all the way just because that's what I'm hoping and praying. And I know that I hate when teams start out a season and they've already got people talking about that, because it really, to me, in some ways, it tends to jinx a team when all this hype starts to surround. It's always hard to live up to the hype. It really is. So I always like when my team ends up being an underdog, because it's like, go ahead, count us out. We'll show you we can do it. But then when, they're hyped up to be like, oh, my God, they're going to do it, they're going to go all the way. I mean, it's what the media ended up doing at the beginning of the season for the Raiders. It's just, I would rather have my team be an underdog and, surpass everybody's expectations, because that's, to me, a lot easier to do than live up to the hype. But on the same note, it's also nice to see your team get recognition. So it's kind of like that double-edged sword. It's awesome because it's awesome to see a team get credit, especially a team that, I mean, seriously, some people laugh at this, but you have schools that are known for certain sports, okay? And like I said, Arizona is known for basketball. Cal is usually known for football. But it's not to say that they haven't had a consistently good basketball team. But it's just, they haven't gotten as far as, Arizona. So I would really like to see them push past that this year and, live up to the recognition that they were getting, because it really is nice to see a team in a school that you love getting the recognition that they deserve. Go Bears.
Suave, your thoughts?
Well, Bears are my dark horse to win the NCAA title this year. I think that, they're an underrated team that didn't come together till about halfway through the season. It'd really be a shame, and I'm kind of sad that this Bears team might not stay together past this season, as they've got two players who are looking to try and be NBA pros. I would love it if they would stay another year or two so we could really see just how strong this Bears team could be. But if this is going to be a flash in the pan, they started to come on strong. I really think that if the bracket sets up nicely, they could get a bit deeper than the Sweet 16. I don't think that, a championship for the Bears is out of the realm of possibility. And I'm pretty sure that any pundit that thought if any 20 teams or 25 teams had a chance to win, I'm sure that Cal was one of them with the way they've been playing over the last half of the season. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with it. And on all my brackets, Cal is going all the way.
That's it right there. All in, baby.
I'm lying.
All in.
I'm lying. they ain't going all the way, but I just had to put it out there because I love Cal. So
For sure. We're all staunch
Right?
I'm gonna
Cal.
keep the face strong.
I think we're all in the same boat on that. We're going down. We're going down with this ship. We're riding this shit till the wheels fall off. So
I just wanted to say it on the air,
A wise man once told me, put positive energy out there, and positive things will happen. So that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to put positive energy out there so that positive things can happen for this Golden Bears team.
Oh God!
right,
Now we
guys.
got Tony Robbins on the show.
It's all one big circle, baby. It's all one big circle. You just gotta learn it. All right. So, final subject of the day, guys. Spring training is officially started. It started on Monday. The games that don't matter are being played. Some of them even as we speak. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to catch any of the A's or the Giants games this spring, but any first week thoughts on this upcoming MLB season? Of course, we're going to do our roundtables, so we'll dig into each team thoroughly as we move forward. But right now, any first impression thoughts on the two teams? Suave, kick us off with your thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. The A's are going to suck again because it's year 2 of the rebuild. There might be a couple of shining lights here and there. We'll be hoping on Coco Crisp staying healthy for the entire season to be a spark plug, which he hasn't done his whole career. We'll be hoping for a renaissance from Josh Riddick. Ain't going to happen. And he'll probably be traded by the trade deadline for another couple of youngsters that we won't see for another 2, 3, 4 seasons. Then we're hoping to get our actual money back from Butler, who played like garbage for $10 million a year last year, and is getting another $10 million this year, and has played like utter complete crap. The pitching staff is not the same staff that helped us, win the West a couple years ago. I like Doolittle in the closing role, but the bullpen is not what it was. The starting pitching is not what it was. We got Sonny Gray, so we'll at least for the next 5 seasons have an all-star guaranteed, which is awesome. That's a bright spot. Stephen Voigt is playing great, but when you realize that he just came on over the last couple of years and is already in his 30s, doesn't necessarily bode well and really want to, pop up the confidence. I mean, if he were 24 instead of like 32, I might be feeling a bit better about that. We got some youngsters. They did some reshuffling and brought back Jed Lowry. He had a great couple of seasons for us when he played for us, and then moved Simeon over to the other side of the diamond. So, I've got hopes that they'll at least not suck terribly. It'd be nice to at least challenge for second place in the division. It's going to be tough, though. Texas, I don't think, they had a great second half of the season last year and really kind of turned it around, but I don't think that they'll be able to replicate that, even though I do love their starting pitching. The Angels, well, they spent all that money that they should be good, but we will never know. But, the A's, I'm waiting. I know another year or two until we're back up and actually challenging for the division for real is what's really going to happen. So I'm going to hold out hope. It's not all doom and gloom. I'm going to hold out hope, but that hope dwindles like a flickering flame in a raging hurricane.
Dang. O'Malley, your thoughts?
Blue Wolf is the devil.
Love it.
Aside from that, I mean, he's demolished the team. I mean, it's frustrating. It is a frustrating time to be an A's fan. It's been frustrating over the last couple of years. I mean, you have a team that was consistently making the playoffs, and then you have a team that had the best record in baseball, and you go and trade, like, the heartbeat of the team. And now I feel like instead of the curse of the Bambino, we've got the Cespedes curse on us. Because then in the off season after that, they completely dismantled the team. I feel like we're still a glorified farm team. We basically are into player development, and that's about it at this point. I am with Suave, though. I'm going to at least pray that we're not the last in our division. I'm going to hope beyond all hope that, and I love my team, so I'm going to champion for them, no matter what. It's frustrating when you've got shitty ownership that obviously, one, doesn't feel like it cares about the team, the players, and most importantly, the fans. So that's definitely frustrating. I will be at the game in Oakland on April 2nd against the Giants, who I know all their fans right now are starting to chant that they're in an even year, and so, before it all starts, they already think that they're going to the freaking World Series because, it's an even year. So I really hope that some team comes along and shuts them up because I can't stand them about as much as I can stand Niner fans.
Hey now.
I was waiting for that. I had to throw that dig in. And for these teams that have thrown, it's funny because we have management who, is stingy and, sells players, basically. And then you've got teams like the Angels and the Dodgers who will go and throw, everything they've got out there. And then you see what happens. Although the Dodgers they started to show where that money was finally paying off last season. So I'm curious to see how they move forward. Although, I'm obviously not a Dodgers fan. I think I'd be cheering for the Giants before I'd be cheering for the Dodgers. Still a cold day in hell.
Kiss my ass.
But,
ass,
I'm still bitter about that 88 World Series. What can I say?
Fuck Kirk Gibson. That's what I could say. Fuck Kirk Gibson and his gimp ass limping around the bases.
I'm just waiting for Kirk Gibson to die so we can stop seeing that damn fist pump. That's, we get to see it one
Dennis
day.
Eckersley should have went out and shot him MMA style and just ground and pounded on him until he didn't come back. Fuck Gibson.
I hate the
man.
Sorry, there's still a little bit of hatred burned up in there.
On a brighter note for the A's, at least the Giants lost today, but all Giants fans will say, hey, spring training, it doesn't count.
Well, I'll say this, though.
Right, of course. But if it's the opposite way around, it does.
Yeah. It does, exactly. If they win, woohoo, we won the championship. It's an even year, man. It's a spring training game.
And then if they lose, it's only spring training. That shit don't matter,
Oh, yeah. And
it can't be both ways, people. It really can't. You can't, be, we won spring training game. We're going to the World Series. Oh, we lost. It's only spring training. No, it's one or the other. You can't say it's everything and then turn around the second that you lose and be like, oh, it doesn't matter. So it's all in or nothing.
We all know that the only games that really matter to us are them Giants-A's games, and as long as the A's come out on top of that shit, we can lose damn near every other game of the season, and I'm a happy man. Well,
it's like the Niners. It's like the Niners playing the Raiders. As long as the Raiders beat the Niners that year, we can lose every other game of the season, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I cannot do that. No, it doesn't. And we'll have this discussion later because this show is about to close. But yeah, Suave knows my thoughts and my theories on who the rivalry between the Niners and the Raiders means more to. And here's a hint, they don't wear red and gold. It's yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Whatever.
I just don't
yeah,
think
that's because you lost the last game. That's all.
No, actually, I've been speaking this.
It doesn't matter
years.
to one Niners fan.
I've been speaking this for years. No, not to this one. I work in a place where I deal with.
Okay, then you're the redheaded stepchild. You're the redheaded stepchild of the Niner fans, because
no,
it really.
I run across more people who they say their base hatred for the Raiders has more to do with Raiders fans and how Raiders fans act than it does anything about a rivalry on the field. Like if you
Oh my
talk to
gosh!
most of
And
Niners
I
Nation,
can say the same thing about Niners fans and their mightier than thou attitude.
exactly.
I mean, come on, who's got it better than us? Well, obviously the
Well,
Ravens
that's a
had it
hardball
better.
thing.
Okay.
That came from Stanford, and that was a hardball thing. But anyway, at the end of the day, but I get what you're saying, and they can both say that about each other. But at the end of the day, none of that translates into an actual rivalry on the field. Like that's a
Right.
great fan rivalry, and this is the argument that me and Suave have had. If you listen to what the Niners and Raiders players say, until Derek Carr recently, neither team really, as far as the players themselves, said much about the other team. As far as I hate those guys and man, I want to kill the Niners every time I go play them. No, but if you ask a Raiders player, do they get up for those games against Denver? Oh yeah, they want to kill the Broncos.
Well,
they want to kill the Chiefs.
I mean, at the end of the day, those are the games that actually matter.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as what you're doing in your division and what you're doing in your conference, those definitely are the games that matter. But the players on both sides will still definitely tell you there is a level of electricity when it comes down to the Battle of the Bay, especially now that it only comes around every 4 years, like freaking leap years. Okay, I mean, but
well, it's true.
That is our leap year, basically.
and I admit, yes, there is an electricity around the game. But once again, just like I stated to start the conversation, I think that electricity comes more so from the fans than it does from the actual players. And I think that what the players are feeling is feeding off the animosity between the fans more so than that. Like I said, there are certain teams when the Niners step on the field with the Seahawks, no matter how bad they whip our ass, that's the game that those guys are out there trying to hurt each other. Like no NFL player is going to say they purposely try to hurt somebody, but Niners, Seahawks, they out there trying to hurt each other. Those two teams hate each other. When players are saying, I would never play, when Seattle players are saying, I'll never play for the San Francisco fucking 49ers because I hate the organization, and Niners players are saying the exact same thing about Seattle, I'll play for anybody else in the NFL but Seattle, that's a rivalry. There's been too many players that have played for the Niners and then directly went over the next year, Crabtree, and played for the Raiders. It's happened. This is what makes me believe that there's not that much of a rivalry as far as the players go.
I mean, don't just throw it out there like Crabtree. I mean, because we had Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
I mean, we still got some good time out of Jerry Rice.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying there's been tons of players that have done it.
But also we've had, I mean, look at the Raiders, that one of our biggest actual rivalries is Kansas City. Well, we have had players that have jumped the fence both directions. It's
True.
not, and sometimes players do it out of pure spite. Like, if you look at, some of the Dallas players that are no longer with Dallas and where they went afterwards, that was purely based on spite. I'm going to go where it's going to hurt you most.
Yeah.
So part of it depends on the player and how they leave the team.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, as far as a rivalry that actually translates into meaning something, your division rivalries are always going to be, the biggest ones out there. Like, the playoffs this year, we had the Raiders had 4 of their biggest rivalries across time playing each other. And it's like, well, who do you root for? Because, I mean, you've got Kansas City and New England, which, of course, you never root for New England. So it's like, God, I never thought I'd say this, but go Kansas City. And then you have Denver playing Pittsburgh. And so across time, those have been the Raiders' 4 biggest rivalries across time. As far as rivalries that actually translate on the field and translate into numbers and translate into actually meaning something, and where they've come from somewhere other than just like your geographical rivalries. Like, like the Yankees and the Mets, the A's and the Giants. We have the we have what are geographical rivalries.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
that doesn't necessarily translate into meaning anything, you know, of significance in getting to the playoffs or winning anything, and until it comes down to maybe having to play each other in, you know, the biggest game of the year.
And I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because that to me is what separates those other crosstown rivalries from Niners Raiders. A's Giants have played for a World Series. Mets Yankees have played for a World Series. Like these teams have met each other on that grandest stage and actually played for something. That to me is what ignited the rivalry. Is, well, shit, you kept us from winning a title.
I think they had I think rivalry before, just because, and the rivalry that they had, this geographical rivalry, isn't even just necessarily perpetuated by the fans, but it's perpetuated a lot and made a big deal of, because it's a money thing, by the media, by the actual, like, team ownership. They make a big deal about, that's why they call it, like, you know, the Battle of the Bay or the Subway Series. And it's not just called that, it hasn't just been called that when they've met in actual World Series, but for the A's and Giants, it's always been the Battle of the Bay. Regardless of what time of year they're playing, whether it's preseason, whether it's, you know, the couple of games they meet and fewer games they meet now in the regular season, or whether it's the World Series. For those four teams, it's always been, you know, the Battle of the Bay or the Subway Series, whenever they've met.
Yeah.
But yes, you are right. Both teams have met when it's mattered the most, and that's definitely going to ignite a lot more. You also get, like, I mean, especially with the Giants and the A's, you know, and granted, I know friends that it's always an odd combination to me, you know, but for the majority, it's Giants, Niner fans, and Oakland or Raiders, A's fans. That's just, I mean, and part of that comes from being a fan of the town or a fan of the city, and, you know, a pride from where you're from or what have you. And I'm not saying, I mean, there are the odd combinations. I have friends who are diehard Niner fans, but who are also diehard A's fans. And that's, you know, one of my good friends and her husband is a diehard Raiders fan and a diehard Giants fan. So they're just a whole mixed up household. But I mean, so there are the you know, the fans who are fans of the opposite, you know, and it's always odd to me, just because, I mean, I'm all Oakland everything. That period.
Well,
it's all about, it's town business. I mean, that's what it is.
well,
But I mean, yeah, no, I mean, I'm just kind of at a loss. It just, I mean, it is different. It's weird rivalries, and really, what we've got going on is a geographical thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, our baseball teams are a lot more likely to meet in the World Series than our two football teams at the same time would ever be to meet in the Super Bowl. I mean, it just comes down to that. We have never really seemed to be having a streak at the same time. Yeah. It's usually been offset with the Niners and the Raiders. And sometimes I think that's maybe why some of those games mean the most, is because, you know, it's usually the years that they meet, or even just when we were meeting on a consistent basis in the preseason, you know, one of those teams was always doing much better. And it hasn't always been the Niners, like a lot of Niner fans would like to think, but they just are very, very young or have short memories. But it hasn't always been the Niners having the upper hand. But they have never really seemed to have, like, a full-on good, like, streak and a chance to be there at the same time.
Yeah.
It's either been one team's been doing that good while the other hasn't, and vice versa. And we know who's on the rise and who's on the fall at this point.
Well, I think it also depends on who you look at and how you look at it. Each team has its pluses and on the minuses. I think they're not as far apart as some fans would like to think that they are. The two teams are very similar in a lot of ways, and though one has surpassed the other, like I said, it's not by as much as what some people would think. I think it's lack of knowledge of the other team's roster in both cases that causes fans to get a little too overconfident as to where their particular team is at. But we got to end this now.
And pride.
Huh?
And pride.
Yeah.
And pride.
I know. And pride. Say, well, okay.
No, so, I was just saying. Sometimes pride clouds judgment. It does.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, we kind of ran over time. We're gonna go under an hour and a half, and we're well over. So we're gonna cut it short here. We'll get back to this next week. I promise you guys we'll probably kick off the show with it, and we can finish our thoughts here. Any last words for the people?
Go Cal. Go Dubs. Go Raiders. Go A's.
There you go, Suave.
Lucifer is the worst owner in sports.
Can't say it enough, friend. Can't say it enough.
Love it.
That's it, folks. We'll see you next week. This has been West Coast Bias. 4Aces presents Spreaker.com. Peace.